Hello everybody, welcome to Solo ReacTalk. This morning I'm going to be reacting to Doomfate Humanity episode 8, Sunset, made on the Das Red Stories YouTube channel. If you guys want to check out my previous reactions to the other episodes, remember the playlist card is going to be at the top here. Just click on it and be able to access them. If you want to check out the original video as well as Das Red Stories YouTube channel, the links are going to be in the description below. Sorry guys, my throat is a bit tingly. I don't know what's going on. I've been drinking water, but yeah, it's still a bit tingly. Hopefully I'm not sick. Hopefully I don't get sick. Okay, let's continue. In episode 7 of Doomfate Humanity, Katerina and her forces were commencing an operation to take over a hive city that's being controlled by the orcs, led by the orc boss, bloody boss Dakajaw. Yes, Dakajaw and his forces were in control of a hive city. They enslaved human, Brutalian civilians, if I can say that. And yeah, Katerina needed the Brutalian civilians to work with her forces in order to take over the city from the orcs. And it did not take that much convincing the civilians to join forces with Katerina to win back their freedom from the orcs. The orcs, are terrible, slave masters, if I can say that. And yeah, it did not take enough, or should I say, it didn't take a lot of effort for Katerina to galvanize the people to stand up for themselves, to carry weapons, and to defend their homeworld from this orc invasion. And their operation also went out quite well in terms of Katerina and her team. They all had their own individual tasks, and they all successfully accomplished their missions. However, we did lose the reliable convenience, the truck that was driven by Captain Dan Cost. Yes, the truck is no more. It exploded in a explosive fireball, taking out a lot of orcs with it. So yes, it's now one with the Omnisire, if I can say that. And Dakajaw, the leader or the boss in the orc war boss, well, not war, yeah, it's an orc boss, yes, in this hive city, has also been defeated by Katerina and her forces, luckily with Bobson. However, Bobson was wounded in that battle, and I don't know if it's like fatal. I don't think so. Hopefully it's not. Like, he is grievously wounded from the war boss himself, the bloody boss Dakajaw. So hopefully Bobson can live out of this, because Bobson dropped the bomb. He dropped the bomb in front of everybody. He dropped the bomb. He is accusing Katerina and Johann Gruber of having sexual relations, having some sort of romantic relation. And yeah, before he passed out, he said that to the group, and yeah, Katerina wants to set the record straight. Gruber is in a state of shock. He hasn't said anything really. It's just been Katerina. So, Bobson has to be alive. You have to stay alive so that we can resolve this situation once and for all. You brought it out there. Let Katerina and Gruber finish it. And you need to be there to witness that you might be right or you might be completely wrong. Yeah, you need to be there. So I'm hoping that Bobson is okay, so he can finally listen to the truth between Gruber and Katerina. I need to know the truth as well. I need to know it. We need to put an end to this. Hey, okay, let's start with episode 8. Alright guys, yeah, it's in the early afternoon. I had to go to my sister's university and drop off some stuff for her, but I'm back now. Okay, let's start. 3, 2, 1, go.
Silence and darkness consumed Richard's perception. He looked around and found nothing. His own steps made no sound, and the beat of his own heart was muffled in his ears. The only thing, other than this total isolation that he could sense, was the warm, pulsating pain in the side of his abdomen. Putting his hand over it, Bobson could feel something tight and textile over where his flesh should have been. Seemingly triggered by this revelation, a small hole of golden light suddenly manifested in front of him. Confused and slightly scared, the young man initially stepped back from the unknown tear in his surroundings.
It can't be the Emperor, right? Emperor, don't take this child. Don't take Bobson. We need him here, alive, here, to answer. He cannot go to your side in the warp. Not yet. Not yet.
However, he reminded himself that he had likely perished in the fight with the greenskin leader. Initially saddened, the private got a hold of himself when this memory was highlighted by the fact that their mission had succeeded and that the rest of the squad had made it out alive. Sanguine with his fate, he pushed away the uncertainty of whether this light was the Emperor ushering him to his side or something unknown altogether. He steeled his resolve and began walking towards it. As he approached it, the pain in his side slowly increased in intensity, but the radiance was warm and inviting, almost urging him to continue moving forward, until at last it became too blinding and he closed his eyes. When he opened them again, he found himself on his back, staring up at the cracked ceiling of a dilapidated haplock. The next thing he noticed was the piece of fabric that he had been covered with, the banner which he had sewn together. Lifting it slightly with the arm opposite of his wound, he then saw that his upper body was unclothed, save for a tight coating of bandages which appeared to be brand new. Before he could make any further observations, a familiar booming voice grabbed his attention.
Ha! Well, I'll be damned.
A recently awoken Gus, sitting on a chair across from Richard and resting his arms on the top of its backrest, noted, before turning his head in the direction of the door leading to the room, which was blocked by a blanket of some kind in place of an actual door, and
So far so good. Let's hope he can walk. Let's hope he can use his arms, like he's not paralyzed in any way, and he'll be fine.
called out.
Hey everyone! The little runt woke up.
Gus? You're alright?
Richard mumbled out before his eyes widened and his tone became slightly panicked.
Oh, Emperor, how is everyone?
Just fine, kid. You're the one who had it the worst.
Wildknife replied as he leaned on the backrest, a thin smile coloring his face.
Turns out you're not the sole exception on this planet. The other battalions stepped up after they were freed, and with some guidance from the boss, we cleared the orcs from the district out, while Buttface was doing his best to patch you up.
Oh, I see. Good. I'm glad to hear that.
Bobson uttered with relief, a similar smile coming to his features before he added.
By the way, how long was I knocked out?
About a week now.
The Catachan casually said with a flat expression.
A week? Man, that's a long time.
And well, yeah, you were gravely wounded, but you still slept in, so the comments have found you both of your ring fingers.
With a terrified yelp, the private brought his hands forward in a sudden jerked move, only to see that all of his digits were where they were supposed to be.
Guys, don't do that.
His terror was replaced with a bemused expression as the man across from him began to laugh. The young man's intention to reprimand his senior would be interrupted, however, when Lawrence's surprisingly not helmeted visage pulled away the fabric in order to look into the room.
Huh, no grok shit this time.
He muttered before turning to call out behind himself.
He's actually awake, sir. The monkey didn't lie. You don't have to kick him in the ribs again.
After which, he walked in, offering a friendly smile to his junior.
Glad to see you back in the world of the living, kid.
Richard smiled sheepishly, not used to getting such praise from the Cadian. That feeling would extend further when Gargoda and Ramiel, who also did not hide his face behind the saintly visage of Drusus, came in next.
About time you got back, sleeping princess.
Steelix chuckled. She then nudged the second lieutenant with her elbow and asked,
Hey, did you do the finger thing?
Yup, and he fell for it hook, line, and snipper.
Both of them shared a laugh at the embarrassed youth's expense, but their mirth was cut short by a reprimand from the corporal.
Quit it, you utter man-children.
His agitated features softened to an even expression as he turned to the topic at hand.
You, on the other hand, should be proud, son. Your deeds earned you a chance of life, and your faith, which I no longer doubt, earned you the Emperor's permission to pull through. In recognition of this, I bestow Brutus's blessing upon you.
He concluded with a priestly hand gesture in Richard's direction.
Thank you. Ramil, right? Yes.
I don't know what to say. Thank you, sir. Thank you all. I do not feel worthy of all this. I'm just glad to see that we were successful.
Okay, this is all nice and happy and gushy, and I'm happy that you are alive, Bobson. But where is the commissar? Where is the what's his designation again? Where is the Grenada? Yes. Where is the commissar and where is the Grenada? I want them here right now. Let's talk.
His company would not be able to offer any further comment, as next to enter were Gruber, whose signature face mask and helmet remained firmly on his face, and Cost. Their presence signaled a shift in the Gathering Stone, which was solidified when the commissar walked in. Everyone immediately got out of her way, forming a two-row corridor between her and the injured PDF. With her hands tucked in her greatcoat's pockets, she approached and said,
Private Bobson?
Unsure of what was going to transpire next, and positively freezing over from fear since he had revealed his knowledge, the young man gulped involuntarily and shakily lifted a hand to salute her.
Reporting for duty, sir?
At ease.
Her voice was like an icy knife sliding down his spine.
What would you estimate your level of consciousness to be right now?
Normal, I suppose? I don't think my cognition is impaired in any way as of right now.
No, that's not what you're supposed to be saying. You're supposed to be saying, hey, I still feel daisy, I feel dizzy, I feel, very sleepy. I still need some time to recuperate because you're in trouble. You are in trouble, my boy.
Good, because I would prefer for your mind to be in proper function, as we need to clear up a few things in regard to what you last said before nearly bleeding out.
She sounded grim, walking closer, with the Mordian following close behind her.
Sir, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to snoop. I just got concerned when I saw the shift order not being followed and...
Enough. That part is clearly obvious. What I want to destroy is the abhorrently heretical poison you nearly unleashed.
After saying so, she removed her coat, handing it back to her dazzling shadow. To the surprise and confusion of Richard, she then rolled up the sleeve of her left arm. What made the gesture even more unsettling was the fact that no one else in the room seemed surprised by it.
What do you mean by rolling up her sleeve? Is she going to beat him up? No, man, is that right? Oh, but commissars also shoot people in the face, so... yeah, I guess... Wow.
Carefully, he returned his attention to her now that she was done rolling up the cloth, and saw some kind of scar coming down the arm from her shoulder, though it looked rather jagged. The Bertilian squinted his eyes, which widened shortly after, as the scar was actually letters, which spelled Ard Bobson, the top half being obscured by the sleeve.
What is that, sir?
He uttered out with obvious terror in his tone. Katerina breathed out heavily as she rolled the cloth back down, following which she inhaled and satisfied his curiosity.
Okay, I thought she was going to... but I guess that's not it. Okay.
My late father was also a commissar. He had a tradition where he would have the names of every soldier that served directly under him carved or branded on his flesh, both to show his dedication to them and to remind himself of the responsibility he had towards those people whose lives became his to spend for the benefit of the Imperium. He also believed that when his time would come to an end and he would face the Emperor, he would show him these names, to ensure that those soldiers' souls would be given the proper judgment for dutifully paying their service. It is a tradition which I have chosen to uphold.
As she spoke, Arconia rolled up her other sleeve, revealing a few other names on her right arm, which the private could not recognize. Her next words, as she rolled it down, made his face flush with embarrassment.
Instead of the gutter gunk that apparently resides in your mind, I called the quartermaster to apply all of you idiots' names before any of us died. And because I'm not stupid enough to try doing it myself without readily available medical provisions.
But...
Richard stammered out in confusion as he looked past the commissar and towards Johann.
Back before we engaged the gangers, you said that you had found something pleasant to do. What did you mean by that if what I thought wasn't what was happening?
Astonishingly, the giant's body made very subtle movements which indicated embarrassment as well. Not wanting to show it on his face was likely a large factor as to why he elected to wear his gas mask, Richard thought, as the Krieger answered.
I always thought that branding was just used for cataloging and accounting. Never really knew it could be used for a car. What was that stupid weakling word you said?
The grenadier asked as he turned his head to face the engineer.
Artistry.
The Cadian sighed, rolling his eyes.
Yeah, that. It was a strange thing to partake in, and it ended up feeling calming, pleasant, as you said, worthless.
Slowly, the private's eyes widened from processing his junior's words until he voiced the realization.
Oh my lord on terror. You just meant that you'd picked up a tattoo artist hobby.
Once again, the commandos shared a brief laugh.
In any case,
Katerina began.
with that misunderstanding cleared up,
Yeah, I think it's cleared up now. Clearly, it's cleared up. Oh gosh. Yeah. Say you're sorry, Bobson. Say you're sorry, and I'm not going to, be nosy in other people's business. Yeah.
just leaves your reward for your service thus far. Stand up, soldier.
Somewhat relieved, Richard slowly picked himself up until he finally stood upright, albeit a bit shakily due to having lain for so long. As he did so, Arconia took off her hat and left it with Dan, after which she approached the Brutalian, placing her hands over his shoulders. This gesture made his already flushed expression even more crimson as blood and thoughts rushed up to his head.
Sir? What are you doing?
His voice was panicked, mortified from the prospect of what might happen next.
Giving you what you deserve.
She said softly, her hands lightly pulling his upper body down.
Don't kill him.
A veritable tram train of emotions and chemicals filled his mind to near bursting as his frame complied with the gesture. All of them, along with the air in his lungs, would be banished out when the commissar's knee embedded itself in his gut, following which she forced him down on the ground and began kicking and stomping on him, making sure to avoid his injury whilst yelling in between her strikes.
Don't you ever freaking dare to snoop on a superior officer again, you pathetic, sorry excuse of a meat shield!
The rest of the congregation looked at the beating taking place before them with stoic calm. As it continued, everyone would
Someone do something. She's going to kill him. She's going to kill him.
slowly turn to glance at Gus, who needed a couple of moments before noticing, prompting him to look between all of them and confusedly ask.
What?
After delivering the satisfactory amount of punishment that she believed was necessary, Katerina stepped back for a moment to catch her breath, during which time she moved back the hair that had come over her face and adjusted her vest. Next, she squatted down above the squirming private, grabbing him by the hair and harshly pulling his head up so he could look at her, then stated with evident murderous intent.
Because you saved my life, and helped in the success of our mission, I am letting you live for now. But if I catch you doing idiotic, heretical shit like that again, I will pull your guts out through your lungs. Have I made myself clear, maggot?
Tears and blood mixed over Bobson's now severely swollen face as he coughed to get some air back in his body in order to give his reply.
Crystal, sir.
And with that, we are done.
Upon saying so, she let go of his hair, letting his head drop back to the ground as she stood up.
Besides, his likes are not my type. He doesn't really get enough hero of the Imperium.
You could have just told him to do push-ups. do 10,000 push-ups, or do something. Why you gotta beat up on the man that's just woken up from a very serious situation? This guy almost died. Oh, Commissar. Oh my gosh.
Katerina then muttered under her breath.
If only that bitch that got her sights on him wasn't an Inquisitor.
She then went to the Mordian in order to put her hat and coat back on. As she did so, she looked past Cost and towards Gruber, ordering,
Patch him up and have him ready for travel. The rest of you, prep our supplies. We are leaving today.
Yes, sir.
All of them declared and began walking out of the room, save for Johann and Cost.
Sir.
Bobson forced out, extending a hand in Katerina's direction in a pleading gesture for her to wait. Rolling her eyes with a sigh, she half-turned to look down at him.
What is it, Private?
The civilians. Have you told them about the gene stealers so they can stand against them?
Several tense moments of silence gripped the atmosphere as Arconi studied the man. Despite the beating, his features displayed resoluteness, and clearly his mind continued to prioritize his duty of ensuring his charges' well-being over his own. Just as she had permitted the silence to occur, the Commissar smothered it with a perfectly calm response, which seemingly carried a hint of praise.
The people of your world are competent fighters when given proper direction. Despite the Greenskins' defilement, this district remains a very well-fortified area. If they know how to prepare for an enemy, said enemy would be wise to reconsider any potential assault in the first place.
A faint smile formed on Bobson's face. He was glad to know that his world was of worth to the Emperor, beyond the storage of war gear, as well as that Katerina had told the survivors how to best fend off the mutants and Xenos from the Underhive. Relieved, he sighed out the tension that built up in him and then said,
Thank you, sir.
She in turn just raised her hand in a gesture indicating that she did not want the thanks, then exited, leaving the quartermaster to work.
Wow. Hey, it was funny. It was funny. Yes, the Commissar and Johann Gruber have clarified, what was going on. And yeah, I thought it was over until she started beating up on the man. And I don't know, really, Commissar Katerina, you could have just told him to do push-ups or run around until I tell you to stop. Or pick up those rocks. Do something labor-intensive, not necessarily beating down on the man that's already, almost half dead after the previous situation. It's a bit too excessive. But anyways.
Cost had been waiting outside for her. The pair made their way to one of the intact terraces on the higher floors of the building they had garrisoned themselves in after their mission. Arconi stood next to the railing and reached into her coat's pocket, taking out a pack of glow sticks, from which she pulled one, holding it between her lips as she put the pack away.
Are glow sticks cigarettes, or are there some sort of marijuana? Yeah, I'm just wondering about that.
Almost immediately, evidently prepared, the Mordian's hand moved in front of her, holding a blazing lighter, with which he lit the stick for her. She took a deep intake from the burning substance, then let the smoke slowly escape through her mouth as her form slouched slightly and her arms rested on the railing. Dan briefly checked to make sure there was no one else around, after which he walked back to her and asked,
What's bothering you, Cat?
I hate lying. It's as simple as that.
She said, taking another breath from the stick. He raised a brow at her response.
I didn't hear you say any falsehood.
You know damn well what I mean, Dan.
She snapped back at him.
These people did good. They won their chance to continue existing with faith and fury.
Again she turned around to look down below at the crowd working on repairing the walls of the district and distributing the large pile of recovered PDF gear they had gathered from the material looted by the orcs, followed by another deep smoky inhale and exhale before continuing.
If they know how to prepare for the gene stealers, those cancerous creatures will more likely choose to avoid the settlement and instead leave the hive quicker in order to pursue us.
Her gaze shifted down onto her burning glow stick being devoured by the embers on it, its ashes being blown away by the air currents.
We need their sacrifices in order to delay the xenos and mutants for as long as possible. But I hate having to make that choice for them.
Then you shouldn't have become a commissar now, should you?
Yeah, that's what I've also realized after watching Commissar Yarrick on the Amber King's YouTube channel. The story about Commissar Yarrick and how he had to defend the planet Armageddon from an orc invasion, and how he had to make the hard choices where he had to sacrifice some hive cities until he reached the hive city of Hades, and that's where he made his last stand against the orcs. And yeah, it is a bad, terrible decision to make as a commissar, but that's your prerogative, that's your responsibility, that's your job. When there's no one else of a ranking military station there that is able to make these decisions, it's up to you as the commissar to do it. You can't blame anyone else, you can't depend on anyone else. This is ultimately your decision to make. And when it comes to operational matters in terms of making sure that your Imperium of Man's forces, in terms of the Imperial Guard, are able to survive and to fight another day, if it means sacrificing civilians to make sure that the overarching job is complete, that is your responsibility as a commissar. It's terrible. It's terrible. Because as a military officer, as someone who's part of the PDF, it's your responsibility to protect the civilians. That should be your number one concern. But I guess when you are fighting the enemy, when you're fighting your enemy, you must use whatever means necessary to make sure that you are victorious, even if that means throwing civilians into, war and making them your meat shield as you prepare for a counter-attack. Yeah, it's terrible. It's not a nice job. It's not an easy job being a commissar.
Cost stated plainly. His comment made her roll her eyes.
Another thing you know damn well is that I didn't really get a choice in the matter either. I just happened to be the product of someone special.
Just as she was about to finish the remainder of her smoke, she felt a hand on her shoulder, which prevented her from doing so before it reached her lips. It took every fiber of her willpower to resist the urge to look back into the Mordian's eyes, for she already knew how he looked, and his next words all but confirmed that for her.
And you know how much it annoys me to hear you talk like that about yourself.
She said nothing, not moving a muscle, as her mind continued to turmoil with what she had put into motion about the people below. As if aware of this, Dan squeezed his grip on her shoulder, momentarily breaking her out of this mental prison and saying,
Your father was a great man, girl. His decisions and actions helped make the Imperium a better place than it was before he was born, and you are every bit his daughter. Like you do with our Lord, you should put more of your faith in those facts.
Protest was her initial reaction, but it was never voiced. Instead, as her shadow's words sank into her thoughts and seemingly calmed them, she flicked away the remaining glow stick, observing its fall all the way to the ground. Once.
So, Cost, Dan Cost, Captain Dan Cost, has worked with Katerina's father, and now Dan Cost is working for his daughter. Wow. So he's been here since the very beginning with the Akoni family. I wonder, does Katerina have any siblings, or is she an only child? And, does she have children of her own? Or maybe she will later on, if she survives for as long as possible. Maybe she will have her own family, or she'll adopt, and that child will carry the name of the Akoni commissars. And yeah, that's interesting to find out that Dan Cost has been there since the very beginning with Katerina's father, and now he's with the daughter. He's like an uncle. He's like the uncle that she needs in these trying times. She's lucky she has someone like that close to her, a close confidant like Captain Dan Cost, because usually a commissar's job is a lonely job. It's very lonely at the top, because either people should fear you and respect you at the same time, and you can't have anyone having this sort of discussion with you like Dan Cost as a commissar. So yeah, Katerina's very lucky to have someone like this close to her, someone who knows her history, her family, who is very intimately involved in her family affairs. So yeah, she's very lucky. She's very, very lucky. Other commissars don't really have that luxury, I think. Yeah.
It struck the cold rock below. She turned to face the elder man with a half smile as she said,
Fair, I guess. Though you're mostly just right about those former parts. My uniform is nowhere near as flashy as my father's.
This prompted a smile on the Morkian's features as well.
Well, that is because that stupid school doesn't teach anything worthwhile, like the proper use of cleaning kits and their maintenance.
Proper. Proper.
Further still, he should have disciplined you better for failing to adhere to his lessons outside of that.
At that point, the two shared a quiet laugh between each other. After the moment passed, Katerina, now significantly more confident than a few minutes ago, motioned with her head towards the door to the building and added,
Welp, come on, Captain. Those maggots will probably frag something up without proper guidance.
Then began walking away.
As you say, sir,
he calmly said, and followed after her. Later in the day, everything would be ready for their departure. Due to his newly acquired bruising, Richard would be carried by Gus. When they came out of the building and he finally saw their transport, a somewhat smaller truck than their previous one, Bobson would raise a brow and ask,
Is this what we're traveling in? What happened with the reliable convenience?
bravely sacrificed to ensure victory over the Greenskins.
Cost stated matter-of-factly from the driver's seat.
Remember that honorable machine with reverence. This was the only functional replacement that was not dismembered from around these parts.
He nodded in understanding, and briefly closed his eyes in silent prayer for their former steed's machine spirit. It was at that point that he noticed the approaching crowd of people, some of which wore the same PDF uniforms as him, led by a man with a scarred, shaven head. In his peripheral field of view, he spotted Johann and Lorenz ever so slightly tightening the grips of their armaments, with the others turning to face the incoming gathering, while Ramil walked a few paces forward to meet them.
What in the name of Drusus do all of you seek now?
He questioned, the saintly visage that wore him looking down at the fairly pathetic-looking populace in a scrutinizing manner. The response he got would have floored the private if he was not held by the Catachan. Every last individual from the sea of people in front of them, from the oldest elder to the youngest child, lowered themselves down to one knee in a wave before the guardsman. Only after the last civilian assumed their pose did the man at the helm lift his head, with a tense smile on his features. His face showed some contortion, indicating that he was withholding the valves behind his eyes from bursting.
We wish to give one final goodbye, and thanks to our saviors, hallowed sir.
He spoke proudly.
I, Oscar Harris, speak on behalf of all of the souls gathered here, extend our deepest possible gratitude for saving us from meekness and restoring our courage, so that we could reclaim our home from the cursed invaders.
His words seemed to soften the edge of most of the squad, with Bobson in particular being too mesmerized and overflowing with joy from hearing all of this to notice Katerina slightly turn her gaze away.
In your noble presence, we vow to continue the righteous fight against the Xenos with utmost valor, fueled by the pride of knowing that one of us has been allowed to ascend and stand among the Imperial Guard. With unwavering zeal in the face of any foe, we will pray for the success of your crusade against the enemies of mankind.
Smiles of satisfaction began to creep over the squad's faces, with Richard himself being nearly moved to tears. Culminating the impromptu procession, the commissar would disembark and approach the man, billowing her greatcoat with a flick of her arm to the awe of the civilians. The judgment of her eyes washed over them for a few moments, after which she took out her saber and lifted it for the mass to see, and then declared,
Arise, people of Broto. The only man fit for you to bow before is the Emperor himself. You have all proven the nobility of your word many times over since our faithful meeting. Continue to do so. Serve with faith and with fury. Use the information I bestowed upon your leaders at the moment of your liberation to restore not only your home, but the Imperium's glory on this planet.
She then lowered the blade, placing its edge on the leader's shoulder, with the Aquila on it being visible to him. Slowly, he would look up to her in utter disbelief and awe before receiving her final words.
Menial Oscar Harris, I task you with ensuring your people's dedication to be worthy of terror in the face of any enemy you may encounter. Uphold this charge with its light at your side at all times.
No longer able to hold back, tears streamed down the man's face as his smile deepened. He smacked a fist over his chest once and accepted.
It will be as you command, Mistress Commissar.
Arconi would give only a single nod of acceptance and then sheath her weapon, which was used as a signal for the rest of the Brutilians to stand up. Without a single word more, she turned around and once again boarded their new vehicle, followed shortly by the rest of her soldiers. All throughout the next hour, Richard's injuries would seemingly vanish as he felt nothing but truly undying admiration and dedication to his commander. Said feelings would be further solidified as he looked back from the truck at the resolutely standing wall of his people, growing more distant as his squad finally left the confines of Hive Skypiercer. That beautiful, fateful day would be the last he or anyone else would ever hear of these brave souls risen in the image of their Lord. For in the same night, he would shepherd them to his side under the sorrowful gaze of the moon in their defiant last stand.
Last stand against... is it going to be the Night Lords, or is it going to be the G-Stealer cult that the Brotelians are fighting against? I wonder. I really do wonder about that. Good luck. That's all I can say. Good luck on the Empress side, in the warp, or heaven, or whatever we want to call it. Okay.
A very special thank you to all of these amazing gits for helping make this project possible. And a heartfelt thank you to another bunch of amazing gits. You lot, the viewers at home. On behalf of the entire cast, we thank you for following this adventure with us and hope that you enjoyed this first chapter of it.
Yes, first chapter, meaning there's more to come. I'm waiting for those to come. Patiently, I am waiting. They must come.
But until Season 2 graces us, do not feel like you will be starved for entertainment. The finest voice among gas mask enjoyers, Yanovich always brings out the big guns. For shovel enthusiasts and delighters in World War history, this channel is second to none. Visit Yanovich's channel, linked in the description. to find and enjoy a plethora of phenomenal videos which will help you become a better servant of the Emperor. Join the trenches
I will look into it.
today. If you're in the mood for something more hands-on, sink your teeth into Krev, a vampiric role-playing adventure set in a sunless world. Vampire politics, clan troubles, and creatures of folklore await you therein. Brought to you by the Jungle Boy. I have to say, I feel a certain kinship with that Yumi. Grab it for free from the link in the description below. And last but most certainly not least, before Season 2 we have a brand new project coming up, which we hope will be to your liking. Look forward to and fly along with us on this new adventure, in a galaxy far, far away.
In a galaxy far, far away? Hey, very suspicious. Okay, alright, Star Wars versus Warhammer, but this is going to be, not, it's inspired by A Phantom Time, but then it will be done on this channel. Yeah. Right? There'll be your own spin to it. Yeah. Okay, alright, that's it with episode 8 of let me get it here, Sunset Doomfaith Humanity, made on the Das Rat Stories YouTube channel. Yes, guys, yeah, this episode I was scared for Bobson. I thought she was going to either kill him, she was going to torture him in some sort of way. She did beat him up. The best case scenario for me, I thought maybe she would just give him labor work or make him run around some sort of field or track or do something, but not necessarily beat him up. So yeah, that was a bit scary. And now everyone was just there looking and watching it as she did that. But yeah, luckily he's not dead, and luckily he was not killed by Katerina. However, now as we proceed with the story, it seems that Commissar Katerina had to make a tough decision, a tough choice. In order for her mission to be successful, she needed a distraction, and she needed the civilians of Brotal to become the meat shield, to become the distraction for the Gene Stealer cult to focus on. But as you know, from, I don't know, I can't remember which episode was it. I think it was episode 6 or 5. The Night Lords are also on Brotal 4. So I don't know if the civilians were killed by the Night Lords or were they killed by the Gene Stealer cult. I'm not sure. But yeah, we'll never hear from these people ever again. They're dead, all of them. So yeah, that's a bit sad, and it just comes into focus, the responsibilities of a commissar. It's not all fun and games. It's not this cool position that everyone needs to aspire to attain, because the type of responsibility you have as a commissar, weighs on your shoulders, weighs on your mind. And you have to lie straight to the faces of those men and women who you're sending out to their death, telling them that, there is hope, that you are fighting for a better Imperium, not telling them the complete story that you are going to be our distraction. The Jinxia cult is going to focus on you while we complete our mission. Not telling them that whole truth, it can hurt you. It can eat you up. And luckily, Katharina has someone like Dan Cost, who has been working with her father and now working with her. And he's able to also counsel her and give her guidance on what to do or how to do it, or, give her information about her father and what her father went through and how he overcame those types of situations. She's lucky she has someone like him close to her. And yeah, Bobson, I think you've learned your lesson. Don't be a nosy person. If you see something, forget about it. Don't talk about it. Just imagine you never saw anything. Just forget about it. It's none of your business. It's not your business to know what's going on. Until they say something, you just keep quiet. You just keep quiet. But yeah, it was quite interesting to hear that Katrina was, you could say, like trying to tack to the names of the people that she has been commanding under her authority as the commissar, and how she would tattoo their names on her body. And when she does go to the Emperor's side, she can show the Emperor, these are the men and women who have fought for the Imperium of Man. I'm here to put in a good word for them, and hopefully they can come to your side as well. They are not betrayers, they are not weaklings, they are people who have served the Imperium of Man with all of their might and strength and life, and they deserve to be on your side as well. So yeah, it's good to see that Katrina, she has a good heart, just like her father. They have good hearts, but they just know what is expected of them as commissars and the type of sacrifice that is required, and they want to make sure that those who are sacrificed are not forgotten, that they are remembered, and that the Emperor can see the worthy of these men and women who have died on the battlefields defending the Imperium of Man. Yeah, so that's cool. Guys, I think this is it with season 1. Yes, we're heading for season 2. I'm not sure when is it going to come out exactly, but as soon as Das Rat Stories YouTube channel notifies on his community tab, or he notifies me, I will be here, right here, for season 2, episode 1 of season 2, and hopefully you guys will also be here to watch my reaction. But first, watch the original, and then you can come and watch my reaction. Okay? Yeah, it's always better to understand what's going on in the original, so that when you are here with me, if I make mistakes, you can correct me. So we're both not wrong, and you know the information beforehand, and you're able to correct me. Yeah. So watch the original first, understand what's going on, and then when it's my time for my reaction to come out, you can watch my reaction, and you can help me out if I should get anything wrong. But yeah, guys, this was really entertaining. Season 1 of Brutal 4 being invaded by the Orcs, Bobson and everybody else, like Bragundi, Johann Gruber, Katerina, of course, Dan Kost, Gargota, Gas, and Lorenz Dusk. Yeah, really, they are all valuable characters in the storyline. I know each and every single one of them. It's just the names, I just need to remember their names in full, like the first name and the last name. Luckily, I wrote down their names here, but I can visualize them in my mind. Who are these people that I'm talking about, and their strengths, their weaknesses, how I felt about them, especially when it comes to Steelix and Gus. I didn't like those two in the beginning. If you guys have watched my reactions, you know I did not like those guys, especially when it came to Gus. I didn't like Gus. I thought even Steelix was just a groupie, someone who wanted to follow someone else simply because she saw Gus as being someone who wants to survive and someone who's strong enough to survive, and thus they joined forces and just survival of the fittest type of situation, and not really adhering to a command structure where they're being led by someone who is superior to them, who would be the commissar. So yes, in the beginning I didn't like Gus, I didn't like Stelix, but they grew on me. They changed themselves as soon as a command structure was in place, and that was Katerina. Bobson, Richard Bobson, his naivety is something that is, admirable to watch as he grows out of it, as he grows out of his naivety, as he experiences what it means to be a PDF soldier, under constant battle against the orcs, seeing his home being ravaged by the orcs, and the aftermath of the asteroids hitting on the planet, and how he's also changed as a soldier of the Imperium of Men, and as a PDF soldier of Brotal 4, how he won't necessarily trust, in terms of saving people from the get-go. Like how he would always try to make sure that his people are safe. He would try to save his people where he can. Now he does come with a far more analytical mind on how he should proceed forward in trying to save the people of Brotal 4. I think he is starting to think of these things in a bigger picture. Yes, he's still grounded in caring for his people, but he's also starting to think of this in the arithmetic type of way, like numbers, the numbers game. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, essentially. He is starting to think that way because of past experiences where he wanted to save people who he thought were Brotelians who needed help, but in the end they were traitors, they were scavengers, they were gang members who took advantage of Bobson's naivety and the kindness given by Katrina, the commissar. And they were in trouble. They were a bit of in trouble there, but they got out of that alive. And Bobson executed those men and women who tried to steal from Katerina and her forces. So yeah, he is learning. From his naivety, he is learning. And I should say I'm also learning. So yeah, Bobson, he's a cool guy. He's a good guy. He just needs to steal his heart, because I think he's going to see a lot of more situations like this in future episodes in season 2. I think we're going to see a lot more problems like this pop up, where he will have to make a decision whether he stands with the Imperium of Man or he stands with Brotal 4. And I know the two of these things are the same thing, but also they are not the same thing. Because if you stand with the Imperium of Man, it means you must sacrifice the civilians. If you stand with Brotal 4, it means you must sacrifice your allegiance to the Imperium of Man. Sometimes it's going to end up that way. And the person who is going to put him in his place is the commissar. Or it's a bullet to the head. Yeah. Guys, yeah, that is it with season 1. Remember, if you want to check out the original video as well as Desrat's Stories YouTube channel, the links are going to be in the description below. If you like my reaction, please give me a like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Click on the notification bell if you want to be up to date with my latest videos, and I'll see you guys next time with season 2. Alright, bye bye.